Okay, so delighted that you're all here. Maybe, Migan, you can start by introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about your take on the topic, because sometimes topics can be very wide and you can imagine all kinds of things on this topic, but actually how international are you? How are you crossing borders for education? Give us a little insight, please.
I wanted to read the top title of the panel first. Yeah, so hi, I'm Migan. I'm co-founder of teachsurfing.org. It's a social enterprise and an online platform where we match individuals to knowledge-sharing opportunities worldwide. In over 50 countries, we have schools and NGOs where they say what are their learning needs, and we have individuals who voluntarily offer workshops and presentation to this target group. So my take on the topic crossing borders for education is that we really try, with our platform, we try to cross not only the educational but also cultural borders. So different cultures can exchange knowledge across the geographical borders, not only educational borders. And for us, there is no border because with the platform, you can connect to every organization. And before actually, maybe to cut it short, we focus a lot on the offline knowledge sharing. But then after this Corona times, we realized this crossing the borders can have a bigger impact internationally, because we had events, the knowledge sharing events that people from around the world participated in one room, experts talking together and exchanging knowledge in a way that we never did before. So it really, for us, had this positive effect that, we really crossed the
maybe stand up
borders.
and turn around and then look again at the so you don't have to constantly. So but it's also weird. It's a weird spelling, like panel, Edtech, crossing borders for education. But maybe you try to wrap your head around the title. Yeah.
So it's crossing the borders of education digitally with our online events, but also physically when expert meets from different countries when they're visiting new countries.
Yes, yeah.
That was the bottom line.
Yeah, but it's a fresh insight. Very good. So, Ms. Chang, you're based in Berlin here at Floki, but you're an international growth lead. So this means that you focus. It is already on, I think. Yes, no worries. So could you tell us a little bit about the company and yourself?
Yeah, I would love to. And so I'm Victoria, and I'm working for this company called Floki. And just to give everyone some background about what Floki is doing, and so we are a piano learning software. And so we're available on mobile devices, on web browser. So it's quite different from regular school education. Here we are trying to teach people a hobby, or as we usually say that we are trying to fulfill people's dream of playing piano, as a lot of people always wanted. Yes, and I think a lot of people might already heard about Floki because we are a German company, and we started from 2014. And in the first year, we gained a little bit of awareness or fan in Germany because our founders were on this German TV show called Die Hülle der Löwen. Yeah. So, yeah. Yes. And also we partner with Yamaha Europe in the second year. And it means that people who bought an instrument from Yamaha, they can get free premium access from our product. Yeah, that's how we gain the first group of loyal users, and also how we started building our reputation. And about myself, shortly, that I'm working in an international growth team. So I'm leading different regional marketers to expand our business internationally. Yes, so I do agree with Migan that education usually is without border, but for business, you do have the border. You do have some obstacles to encounter. Yeah, that's what I'm doing in the team, and I would love to share more later in the discussion.
Yes, many interesting points that we'll get onto later. Yes. First, the rest of the introduction. So what does Mr. Rocky do on a daily basis?
On a daily basis?
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of networking. Now it's more virtual and maybe less so, but no, in general, maybe a few information on my background. I'm a behavioral economist and used to lecture and still lecture at Goethe University. So the education topic is something that is quite close to me. I left university in 2016 to found Techquartier, It's an innovation platform headquartered in Frankfurt, and we connect different stakeholders, mostly startups and big corporates, to help them, enable them actually to engage in innovation, to do innovation together. And in recent times, we expanded our business into the education field, because we saw, in particular in our region, that we need to do more to inspire young people to discover an entrepreneurial path. And for that, we started some learning or education programs. One we co-launched with Eintracht Frankfurt, one of our partners, to help students to really understand technology and get access to the startup industry. And now recently, and this is also one of the reasons why I'm so happy to be here, talk a little about our latest program, the AI Talents program, where it's about data and entrepreneurship, and our model of how we teach, not only on-site, but also online, and how we think about the future of educating.
Yeah, and what kind of entity is this, Techquartier? Is it private or public, or?
It's a GmbH. It's privately financed, but has public stakeholders. It's an interesting mix of public-private offerings. But for that, I think a very good way to connect different stakeholders. We have a very close connection to the government, but also to academia and industry. So that helps sometimes.
Yeah, very interesting. Yes, sorry for not being able to pronounce your first name, Professor Hendro. But could you tell us also a little bit about your involvement in crossing borders and technology and education?
Sure. So actually, my first name is Hendro. So last name is Wicaksono. So that means I think it's better to call me Hendro. Yeah.
Okay,
so actually,
thank you so much for that. Yes.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for coming, and also for giving me a chance to be involved in this panel. I think it's quite interesting panel. Today I actually represent 3 different entities, but it's something to do with crossing borders and also education.
Just start with one. That always helps.
Yeah.
And the rest will follow.
Yeah. First, I teach at Jacobs University Bremen. It's an international university in Bremen. So there we have students from around more than 120 countries. So you can see that's the different culture, different learning culture, and so on. And we try to serve the students and to accommodate different kind of learning culture. So that is the challenge in this panel. I think I will be the user of the EduTech. And also I represent IndoHub, so you can see there. IndoHub is Indonesian German startup hubs, where I'm advisor there, just founded this year. So it's about putting together or getting together a startup from Germany and Indonesia. Mostly it's based in Berlin. So currently we have a lot of startups and business more in the creative industry and tourism and so on. But we want to start to gather people who's doing startup in technology based. That's also crossing border because we want to build ecosystems in German Indonesian. And also I founded 2 startups in Indonesia. One is about the environment protection. So one of the mission is to educate people to be a partner of young people in Indonesia who's really engaged to smartphone and internet, to be aware of and also to enable them to contribute into the environment. So that means the education aspect is also there, and also another startup is in healthcare. So healthcare means here how to especially in the Corona time here, how to help the hospital and also to help the government to work with the actual data. So
Yeah, so you have no private life whatsoever because you're only working.
yeah, actually many, but it will take a long time to explain, explain everything. Yeah.
But very interesting. So I want to divide actually the panel because we're with 4 people. We want to answer some questions into 3 topics actually that hopefully connect everything. Of course, we have to go to talk a little bit about COVID and the impact that it had on your business. But then maybe also talk a little bit about like how people are now differently interacting with the products that you offer and the programs that you have. And then as a third part to talk a little bit about the future of this, what it implicates for your own business. So how you're going to play into that, but also what kind of future do you foresee? Because this year AsiaBerlin is hybrid, but you know, I would like to have your thoughts on this. So first maybe start with like, okay, what have you seen during, since March actually, since we went into a lockdown in Germany? So how has it impacted you, your business? Migan, you want to start again? Yes?
I can talk a lot about this, being a mother and full-time CEO at the same time, and daycares were closed and we both had to work full-time. So that was very difficult and challenging, but also very surprisingly for us, for our business, was a very good time. Because first we took a quick action. Before that we were connecting people to offer offline workshops. So you have to be in South Africa if you want to go to the school and give workshop. But then we transformed to the webinar format, that you give a workshop and we invite our global community from 150 countries to come to your workshop. So we did this transition and we realized that our community got more engaged because you can just dial in and listen to an expert from Iraq. You know, it's not something that you have to plan and travel there. So our community got engaged in a very nice way, especially because everybody were in lockdown and they tried to find a way to get busy. So community was very engaged. On the other hand, we have an automated matching platform, and then we also added the e-learning aspect to it, so you can also offer online courses through the platform. And already 2 months later, we signed 2 customer contract who want to have a customized version of our own platform for their own community. Because in this time, all the network communities, network organizations realize they have to find a digital way to engage their community, to teach their community, to activate. And then they saw we have a platform and we are moving towards e-learning. So we had our 2 first customer contracts signed during the Corona times where all the businesses were going down. So for us was actually a very great moment to realize the power of what we have, the online tool that, and it's how it can be more impactful even than what we thought. So.
And do you understand why you didn't do this sooner?
Ooh, very good question. So we deeply went into training the trainer, how we can help you to transfer your knowledge. So for us, the pedagogic and helping trainers was a topic. Even if I have a software engineering background, my co-founder also, but last year we did a lot of development on building training programs. So I don't have an answer why, because being software engineer working in big software companies, that should be the first thing I do, sell software. Yeah, you don't see the obvious, maybe, the elephant in the room.
Let me try to give you an answer, perhaps. I mean, in economics, we talk about equilibria, right? And shocks like COVID can shift equilibria, right? It's just, you didn't have to explain or convince people that this is the way. There was no other way, right? So that helps. Otherwise, you need to, justify yourself. Why? Everything online, because everybody's used to travel and so on and so forth. So I think that was really helpful, and we had very similar experiences, right? At that time, we run our tech talents programs also on site, and we were thinking about, educating 30 participants. Yeah? When we in March, April thought about what are we going to do? Are we going to continue? We saw it actually as a huge chance and opportunity to bring it online, bring the whole education program online, and this opened up really new dimensions, new opportunities. Now we could accept students from all over the world, and the latest one is now really getting a lot of attention and a lot of applications from, I think now 48 countries, like 5 continents. It was not, we couldn't think of it 6 months ago, right? We needed to build software. We needed to build an environment to do that. Yeah, that's what we launched quickly during the COVID lockdown. But that's now the new reality, right?
But your take on this as a behavioral scientist from my background is that people usually don't change when they don't need to.
People need nudges sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, but that is a euphemism, a nudge. That sounds too nice. Does there need to be a crisis, or because when we are later going to talk about how we are now tackling like the new kinds of things you're working on, maybe this is important to have a good stand on that. Do you really think people need a crisis before they start changing their behavior, or?
Very often crises help, right? But crises are just more salient events, right? It doesn't have to be always, like a health crisis or another crisis, but it needs something that impacts your daily life and where you see the consequences immediately, right? So it's much easier if you feel it, if you like observe it, if you are actually concerned or impacted individually, then theorizing about it, yeah, or like talking about it only. So crises are very often good opportunities, and actually many good and big companies were created in times of crisis. So this is where actually new opportunities evolve, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I also see that crisis is actually accelerating this process, because Edtech is, of course, we know it's a trend, and all the online tool, Edtech tools, they are there, but it was just never used so intensively or broadly during the COVID-19. So we also see the change of usage definitely during the time. Also, playing piano, learning piano is definitely not something necessary for school or for kids, but we find that it's actually something people want to do when they were locked down or locked at home, that they want something to relax or to ease their anxiety as well. So it's not only to get some skills that you have to do, like to finish your school assignment, to learn mathematics, language. It's also about something you want to develop for yourself. Yeah.
And I'm also very interested to learn a bit more about like how Yamaha was now looking at you guys, because by then maybe you were perceived as the nice software add-on for buying the hardware, the piano, but not many people went to shops probably to buy a piano. So now all of a sudden you were in the focus of attention, because suddenly you could tell them a little bit how people were behaving, if they were still playing piano and so on.
Yeah, so definitely it's a really great win-win cooperation between Yamaha and us. And for them, they definitely also get a lot of satisfied customers, because before people were thinking, okay, if I buy this instrument, do I really have the budget to hire a teacher or to go to school every week? So they that actually people are satisfied that, hey, I get this instrument and I directly get an access to have a tool to learn directly. And also during the time, actually not only us, a lot of instruments like Yamaha, they also get a lot of online sales, because people are just searching for something to do at home. So we also see that, hey, we see the importance of this cooperation, and we also kind of expand this cooperation even to many more countries.
Okay, but are they really buying pianos online without trying them out, or is it more like the keyboards and the electronic pianos?
Yeah, so we do see that the lower end products are selling much better, because you cannot go to the store to try out the really high end expensive piano or grand piano. So definitely those lower end keyboards or digital piano are like super popular during those times.
Yes. So far, only happy people on the panel. This is really good. Maybe you have something that impacted you in a negative way, something that you're really pissed off about.
Yeah, of course, there's many things that we need to shift in the short time. So because of the corona, we have to shift all of the teaching to online. And the students, for example, I have students from different countries, like from Ecuador, which is, if I teach like during the 10 o'clock, for example, there will be still midnight, and also some people in Korea, South Korea, for example, they are late evening. So for us, it's quite a big challenge, not only because of the learning and teaching process, but there's a lot of shift that should be done behind that. So, for example, the people who's working in the academic management, they need to shift schedule to create schedule, and then to process the registration and so on online. And the one who prepare the exams, for example, we need to use online exam, online proctoring, and so on. So that means for this kind of shift, in a short time, we need some kind of method, strategy to manage the shift in a systematic way. So that means, for example, we create some kind of task force that consists of the faculty members, students, representatives, and representatives from academic management, IT, and so on. So to find a solution, technological solution that make everyone happy, actually. So of course we are not happy, but we try to be happy in somehow to optimize by optimizing our process.
All of a sudden, all of this creativity.
Yes.
Help us. So much creativity. What to do with it? Yeah. People talking to each other all of a sudden. Yeah, that must be within like the German university context and this world. It's usually pretty conservative. So probably the IT department at your university never talked to other departments, right?
Yeah, and I had some experience with another university, which is not in Germany, and this shift was not quite managed properly, so there's no task force and so on. So it turned to be chaotic, so the shift, actually.
Yeah. It's not that I always want to bash like German digital appearance, right? So I can also say positive things about digitalization in Germany. It's just not so much. So only a couple of examples, but not that I get complaints, okay, you're bashing Germany all the time. But
yeah, and not at all in education and digital area.
Yeah.
So
how old are your children?
2.5.
Yeah, okay. Not in the school yet?
No,
okay.
I'm happy for that.
Yeah, no, mine are 7 and 4, and yeah, no screen in the classroom or email from the teacher or no. Yeah, it was very quiet for a long period of time. Yeah, we managed, but it's, yeah, it was kind of like not very digital. But what did this task force in the end come up with? Because it's interesting to learn a bit about the solution.
Yes, the task force recommend the technologies that should be used for different things, like for video conferencing, for proctoring the exam, to do the automatic grading of the exam, for example, and so on. And also develop some kind of standard process. So this is important because the technology is not enough without any process which is standardized. So that's why this task force, they work a lot for 1 month, maybe, and then come up with recommendation of technologies and standard processes.
Yeah, really excited to hear more about the future, but I'll come back to that. You want to respond? Or I saw you like... Okay, so like the how in your case, for example, everything is digital now. Like it was so easy before. You just had an event calendar. Everybody could focus on the events. Everybody had something to do. You knew the format. Everybody was busy. All the hours were filled, and everybody was happy. And now all of a sudden you have to come up with something totally different. Was in your case also like more creative thinking than before, or were there also downsides to that, or?
I mean, the situation really created this kind of sense of urgency, right? We had to react, right? There was no other option. I mean, that we are thinking about these kind of online, offline learning experiences since many years, right? I mean, we know the MOOCs, yeah? I mean, I was really excited in 2011, 2012 when the first providers appeared on the market, and they showed actually where the future is going. I think now the big challenge for universities, schools, but also other education formats and institutions is really to balance now and to understand what kind of learning part and experience can be done online or better done online, and which part needs interaction. Personal interaction. And in our cases, I mean, we are teaching entrepreneurship at Goethe Business School, and one part is really conveying information, providing, the students, the participants with, the methods of starting a venture, for example, right? But a second part is applying the knowledge to really starting a venture. Right? And here it's about, like forming teams, it's about sharing ideas, gaining trust. And this is much harder to do online, right? I think you can mimic it to some extent, but here I think personal interaction still matters more. So I think the chance we have is to revisit and rethink what part we want to do online by and then also using the opportunities and the potential of scalabilities, like what MOOCs achieve, right? But then also see where to focus really on-site education. And with our platform, the Tech Hippo platform, we have parts that are created as video lectures, but then everything we do has also a challenge part to it. So applying your knowledge with challenges. And in the case of the AI Talents Program, these are startups that provide their data set, where then the students can work on data challenges together with startups and find new solutions, right? So you have one that is really easily done through the online platform. You watch video tutorials, get all the references, can inform yourself. And then, of course, we would like to have this interaction of, getting in touch with the chief digital officer or the CTO or the data scientist of the company, and then find solutions. And here I think the personal interaction will remain very important. So I think it's more about the balance we have to find.
Victoria?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, even though I'm working for a software company, so I should be the one supporting everything should be done online, but I also believe that there should be a balance. A lot of people are talking about whether EdTech is just trying to replace traditional education. I believe it's definitely not like that. That a lot of things, a lot of energies, like creativity, passions to a subject, those are just really difficult to be created or exchanged online, I would say. So so definitely I would say online and offline education, these topics, they are definitely not a competition like either one way or the other, or after the pandemic, definitely those two topics should be complementary to each other. You need to have offline, to give personal acknowledgement, to give personal contact, but I think the online and EdTech part is just making this educational content more accessible.
Because is Floki also being used by music schools, or where they professionally teach people to become like a professional piano player?
Yeah, exactly. We are also working with a lot of teachers and music schools, as you say, that we definitely don't say, hey, with the app, we can replace traditional piano or music education. It's definitely not like that. So, of course, for people who just want to start, who don't know whether what kind of budget they want to go for, you can start easily with the software. But for people who learn already with a teacher, who go to music school, it's just a really nice tool that you can use when you are out of the school, when you are at home. Yeah.
because I would be very interested to learn for you, Migan, where you see also the shift, like societal change from going from, okay, you need to get a diploma somewhere, that like to more skills-based society, where then all of a sudden also the teach surfing courses and learnings could be part of a curriculum that someone needs to get in order to go on. Do you think that shift will now also start to, will start?
Yeah, I want to comment on two things. Before this system shift, educational system shift, which I want to also comment, before that about what here we were talking about online and offline aspects of education. I had a radical thought in my mind just right now. I said, yeah, I totally agree with you guys, but just like this crisis that changed my mind, before crisis I said, no, we are about bridging cultural gaps, and it's only possible when I meet another culture. And during the crisis I changed my mind and I realized still you can bridge the cultural gaps in a digital way. So I'm raising the question, yes, I feel like I like to meet people to build trust. I just make a connection in 2 minutes with a person from Hamburg, which I'm going to meet in Hamburg, in no time. So I totally agree with that, but I'm just saying maybe it's a shift of mindset. Maybe if we would stay in this position of online, try to go to these online formats of networking, I don't know what, maybe in 2 years if you would ask us, we would say, yeah, I can build trust online. So maybe we don't see it yet because we have never been in that position to not have this face-to-face contact, to try to find a workarounds. So that's my comment, try to be the opposite sound. And the other thing is definitely what we work on is the shift and the system change that we want to work on is that education is not only that you have to have educator in a room teaching, pedagogic expert in the room teaching something, but you need experts, you need skilled people to share their knowledge, and specialists is the right word, to share their knowledge. And we need these people to come to the room and being able to transfer knowledge. So we do the both things, connecting them to the people who they can share knowledge, but also making them pack their knowledge in a workshop format or presentation format. So this is how we also want to shift the education. And it's not always the responsibility of the teacher to teach. The teacher is allowed to have another hand, which is a specialist, which can also contribute into education. So that's how we want to bridge the gap between specialist and formal education and help each other. It's not that one is better than the other one, because we learn a lot from specialists, from our first work when we work from practical knowledge transfer. So both goes hands in hand, formal and non-formal.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Actually, the way, according to my students, because I usually, now we are starting to have offline teaching, which is actually not fully offline, but it's kind of hybrid. So we just put camera and then microphone and then broadcast the teaching so that the student can choose online and offline. But what I realized from the feedback that I gather from the student is that there are 3 components which is important in learning, especially in a university level, which has different culture of students. First is in some culture, not every, but in some culture, is the personal communication with the teacher is very important. For example, some of the students don't want to go to the class if I'm not there. For example, if there's, for example, the assistant there to teach and so on. So that means the teacher should not just teach, but also to give inspiration, to be a role model for the students, for the younger people. And the second thing is the content itself. I think this is where the EdTech has more roles, which increase the experience of the learner to interact with the content, like to to have visualizations, gamifications, and so on. And then the environment, which is, like you said, the expert, the people, and maybe also the classroom and so on, which should facilitate the interaction between and also the use of the digital technologies. So I think those components should be there. But so what I'm trying to say is that the EduTech cannot substitute teacher in this case.
Maybe to come back to your initial question with diploma and whether this will shift the whole education system. I mean, we could have expected a much faster like turnaround or shift, right, when all the MOOCs appeared, right, because they also offered these credentials, and certificates, and
the massive online open courses.
The massive open online courses. In fact, you see that still universities, I mean, they're thinking about it, but it hasn't impacted that much, because still a lot of employers, a lot of companies still value the more traditional like certificates, diplomas, and so on and so forth. But interestingly, if you look at some of the business models of these early providers, like Udacity, for example, they turned much more into a recruiting platform, right? And actually, most of the participants found jobs in industry, right? And it's just a matter of time, when you will see that this has a much higher value, and that the industry would also put pressure on the education system to change. So I think it's a matter actually of time when this whole Edtech revolution will impact institutions, traditional institutions, and everybody has to find really a solution.
Maybe just a small comment coming from software engineering background. Whoever applied, if they have a certificate from university or none, they have to pass the same test. Sometimes, impressingly, people with no software background, hobby programmers, they pass the test 10 times better than the person who went to university, or other way around. So actually, especially in IT field, other fields maybe it's different, architecture maybe totally different. You cannot have hobby architecture, but in tech field, we totally, that's the first thing. Prestigious university says something, but actual test says everything. And that's why in tech field, there is no difference. Nobody gets filtered because they don't have university certificate. Also, the recruiting website is the same thing. They get a challenge, they need to fix it. Nobody asks, show me your certificate before fixing it. They say, show me the result. So it's a perfect shift. In this industry, there is no, it's there in this industry, I would say.
So, but then, because we're talking about like internationalization and crossing borders, then actually one could say that that education, in essence, will always stay local. It's just like the pool of knowledge and the sources, they maybe become international. They can be international, but education in the end will always be something that you do on a local, in your direct neighborhood, with also an offline component in it. Is that, would that then be how you look at the future? Or you think there are different options? Victoria, maybe have you thought about that?
Just to clarify, the question will be when we shift the educational concept abroad.
What do you think about like the internationalization of education? Now you go to a university because it is near or it has a good reputation, but you don't look globally for a university. At least most people will not do so. But now all the content is available internationally, so one would expect that you also go on a global search now for where you can get the best knowledge and the most interesting insights. Will that happen, you think, or will there always be a local and offline component to education?
I think educational-wise, especially about university, something you can, stream online, you can watch with a video. Definitely, those makes that educational content and resources more accessible, regardless of the location, even maybe your financial condition, that you are not able to travel abroad, to study abroad, that now you give pretty fair chance, opportunity to everyone. But of course, there will be still a barrier, just what we say about language. Definitely because English, it will be the universal language, right? At least now it's kind of universal for everyone. It means you have this criteria that you have to be fluent in English, to be professional in English, to be able to get those resources. So I think probably this element will also switch potentially, that definitely the resources will be available, but then how the company or how this organization can localize the content, to make it available.
I mean, I fully support this view, right? The degrees of freedom are much higher now. And look, if I'm not happy with my machine learning course at my local university, I just apply or just register for Andrew Nung's machine learning course, together with, I don't know, 100,000 others, and I learn the stuff I need, right? So I personally wouldn't care. The question is, if you then maybe want to start a venture or, you know, like engage in a project, perhaps you would like to pick some of the other participants and find a way to get together and, you know, like organize something more autonomously. Maybe not so much led by university, but more proactively, by the participants itself. So education can take part much more autonomously, or, you know, the personal interaction part. So I think it's a challenging time for traditional institutions, and they have to find a solution. I think they have a lot of resources, a lot of good resources and potential to do so, but you know, they have to engage and they have to really start finding and offering something valuable.
Yeah, maybe it's just to add that there is a technology like machine learning that can somehow personalize the learning, which is based on the quantification of the progress. So I think in this case, so it's something that can be done by Edtech. But the cultural aspect, so that means with this personalized learning, you can just adjust the content based on the progress of the learner. But in terms of personalization, in terms of culture, so it's quite difficult because you cannot quantify the culture. So if there is a technology that can somehow to give the right methodology or right content for certain culture, so it would be great. Yeah, but yeah, it's something that's I think it's challenging. So according to my experience, is in terms of culture, it's quite difficult to make everyone happy. So there is no like ultimate teaching methodology or learning methodology which is suitable for all. Yeah, so we can add.
Yeah, so I have been always skeptic into the cultural studies and theories. Because for me, the main key that I could understand the other culture was sit next to that culture and talk about life. So not reading books, no theory, and just sitting next to each other face to face in eye level and have a contact. And this was the best lessons to know your country, to know your background, to your culture, and the behavior. Yeah, so definitely this is why before Corona time we said face-to-face is the key, and that will bridge the cultural gaps. It's also teacher to student also. When you're face-to-face, you can get that cultural differentiations better, understand it better. Yeah. But definitely this in an online format, it gets very difficult. But we had workshops where we invite the international community. And you have one virtual room where you have specialists from Germany talking about genomic engineering, specialists from Iraq are asking questions, and from Canada are listening. still you realize this cultural coming togetherness. The soft things maybe you don't realize that they are shy or they are that things maybe you don't realize, but still we brought them together in a way that they would never come together in an offline setup. We would never achieve to get these people would never afford to come together. And how would be the CO2 consumption to bring these people together? So we saw that actually it has some cultural exchange, not in that face-to-face, but in another format. So again, my point is only that you need to bring these people together, and everything, first time is difficult, the second time gets better, and it will always get better. So we should not be afraid of cultural differences. Oh, this will not work for this, just try it and see what's coming back and then change it. So definitely it's possible to find a solution online for this. Maybe not as perfect as face-to-face, but it was beautiful what we experienced.
I want to do a final round for all four of you because we're all 2 minutes over time, but I think it's super interesting. I hope you also still think it's interesting. Yes. We could talk, we would love all to talk more, I think, but unfortunately other people are also waiting and the next panels are coming up. But one final question for all of you. So what will be the lasting impact of this crisis, so this virus, this COVID-19? And then in regards to education, so what will we keep and where do you think, okay, old habits are still too strong and will not change? And I'll just start with you. And
I mean, I hope that the crisis will really enable change here in our German education system. I think there has been a huge need.
Okay, so more online and less offline.
Yeah, and I hope that this will not, remain as it is. So that the responsible, people will take action and really implement it.
And so I believe that the part which will stay is that people will really embrace about online education. They will accept that learning online is just kind of a new normal now, that online and offline should grow together. So I think because online education was also used so intensively in the past months, people definitely found some flaws, some downside of online education. So those will be the changes to be made, like improvements. For example, how to make the whole experience more interactive, immersive, or how to keep school kids concentration for a long time. So those topics.
Hard question: Will offline be the default for learning or online? Where do you see the balance?
I believe that they will definitely grow together. That's always what I say will be complementary. So online will definitely stay, but offline will be complementary once in a while when this should be introduced in.
Okay, so default is online and the extras are offline.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope that the impact of COVID on education, at least in German context, would be that more investment of the government and public sector in education, formal or non-formal. But unfortunately, not in my knowledge, they invested so much in auto industry, other industries to save them. Education, the teachers are suffering. And this is the core of the country. And I hope, I'm thinking positive, there will be more investment in education, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, the thing is, there is actually a budget, but it's not reaching the schools, right? So to start with, right?
Yeah, but the budget raised for the auto industry.
Yes, yes.
Maybe you can also include Indonesia in your final answer. A difference maybe? See quicker adaptation in Indonesia, or there was already more adaptation? And then also the question on, okay, offline versus online in your context.
In Indonesia, there's still some basic infrastructure problems like internet connections, and it's not the internet connection, the internet penetration is not really reach all of the whole country. So I think there should something to do there in the infrastructure before we go to the technologies.
Same in Germany.
Same in Germany. Okay. So that means there is more challenging, I mean, to shift to the online. But according to my experience during this past 6 months, starting from March. I think, for my opinion, the default of learning is still offline.
Okay.
So online is something that's that can enrich the experience in learning. So, and also to have more like in some situation, like if the class is very early morning, for example, so it's better to do online than
for students,
offline.
For students especially,
and
yes,
for
I can
myself
imagine.
also.
Okay, that's very honest of you. Okay, so I really have to cut it short now because otherwise we will give other people less time. It was super interesting, and I hope that the audience found this too. Big applause for our guests, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yes.